Is it possible to use AI tools to write high-converting advertising that turns traffic into profit? And if so, how would you do that? That's the main theme of this episode. And of course, we will also be covering lots more tips and strategies to help you monetize your business. I'm Caleb O Dowd, and this is the show that brings you profit-producing secrets from the greatest marketers in the world. My guest today is none other than the legendary Jon Benson. Jon is a master copywriter, perhaps best known as the inventor of the video sales letter, of which my bank account and I are very grateful. He's also been at the forefront of innovating custom AI tools that create highly profitable advertising for both copywriters and internet business owners. Jon, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Caleb. Good to see you, man.
Oh, likewise. It's an honor and a privilege to have you here. I'm really excited to talk with you about all things copywriting and more specifically, all things AI copywriting.
Yes, sir.
Not only have you been a pioneer, if not the inventor of the video sales letter, but you have been literally one of the pioneers of AI copywriting. And, I'd love to hear what's kind of going on in the world of AI copywriting right now. I know that there are the general tools that are out there that everybody uses, but then there's very highly specialized tools. I know that you've been making your own tools and stuff like that, but maybe you could start with just a little bit of like, what's going on in the world of AI copywriting these days?
Well, it's kind of a mixed bag. You've got ChatGPT, which as of the time of this recording, recently released its latest version of 4.0. which is they've got really clever names for these models. I think it's 05, 06, 14, or something to this effect. It's something, arcane like that. Came out in May, so they named it 05. But so the latest release of 4.0, which is the most progressive model, fastest model of OpenAI, doesn't mean it's the best copywriting model. And then you've got Anthropic, which is, insufferably woke, will not write copy for half the things you ask it for because it offends its sensibilities. So you've got this weird mixed bag of things where if you know how to prompt the AI, which is a whole thing in and of itself, you can get pretty good copy out of just off-the-shelf things like ChatGPT or Claude, which is the back end of Anthropic or the front end of Anthropic. Gemini's got some really good stuff, can write really good copy. So there's some things in there that do work. It's the question is how do you get it to work? And I've been doing this for a long time. We were pre-AI back in 2016, working with models as early as 2019, 2020. So the bottom line is at least right now, this is before the advent of GPT-5, which is being put on hold from what I hear. I just heard that yesterday. I don't know if that's true or not, but that would be interesting. But these really progressive models of more advanced language learning, that you have a choice, as I jokingly say, you need to still learn copywriting because you don't know what's good. So in other words, the AI could spit something out super blazing fast, and then you're looking at it going, wow, that's incredible, but is it good? How do you know? Because most of the copy is crap. It's complete crap. It has a soulless, banal feeling to it, and it doesn't understand human persuasion very well because it's not trained specifically on that, like these big tools that people use. But if you know how to prompt it right, if you know how to go through all this prompt engineering, essentially to get it to output the copy to sound more human-like, then you become, rather than a copywriter, a prompt writer, because you need to be a writer on some level to get copy. It's like that was the challenge that we saw back in 2021, especially 2022 when GPT-4 came out, is that you really need to have the skills to be able to write regardless of the tool that you're using. Either the tool is a sheet of paper and a pencil, maybe if you're living 100 years ago, or a word processor or whatever you're using to write. So this tool's a copywriting, so you'd be a copywriter, or prompt writing to know how to engineer a prompt to where the copy comes back and it sounds more human. So there's a common theme there. Both of them require that you understand copywriting. So I agree with my buddy Ryan Dice. It's the most important time ever to learn the skills of copywriting so that you can at least tell the difference. But with advanced tools like ours, you don't need to necessarily write as much as you did or hardly any at all. but you need to understand what's good and what isn't so that you can fix it. So that's kind of the broad spectrum scope of the land. There's a lot of really bad tools out there that are essentially just they're chat overlays. In other words, they basically provide a portal into chat, and they try to dress up the prompts a little bit, and maybe they say, oh, here's this this particular framework, like AIDA framework, for example. Oh, get an AIDA framework for your email, and it comes out sounding like chat wrote an AIDA framework. The obligatory 2 questions, then dives right into the offer. It's the worst copy you can imaginable. So,
Yeah.
so what we did, we took it on ourselves to say, well, could we take the power and speed of AI, which is unmatched, obviously, by humans, and force it into a funnel, force it into this narrow way of looking at copy that models only great copy? Can we do that? And that's what we've done. That's what we're trying to do. And it's been a pretty interesting ride for sure.
So can a real, test-worthy, scale-worthy VSL be written start to finish, A to Z, top to bottom, with the right prompting? Or is it still at a level where it's like we can get a really good first draft, and then highly skilled copywriter like yourself needs to kind of take it from there?
So we have it to where you get first of all, getting a really good first draft. I mean, you're not even going to get that out of like ChatGPT unless you know exactly what you're doing. You have to know something I trademarked called pre-prompting, and that is foundational to my own tool. That you have to at least understand. If you don't know what the name is defined as, you at least need to understand the principles behind it, so that you're educating the machine, so to say. It's not literally a machine, although I did hear a politician call it a machine yesterday, which was pretty damn funny. She clearly doesn't know what she's talking about, but she's trying to define what AI is. So I see train the machine, euphemistically speaking. You have to be able to educate it on the spot to here's the style, the tone, the word patterns, but you have to get really specific about it. If you can get specific enough to write a pre-prompt, the command prompt to have it to do the things, and what we call refiner prompts, which is, okay, that's good, but try it like this, do this here, and so you're sending models, you're sending formulas, you're sending a bunch of stuff to it, then yes, it can give you a really good first draft that you still need to edit either with an AI editor, which is, there's only one that I like, or with a human editor. And what I recommend still, because I don't think there's still not a push button solution. We have had some of our clients do literal full drafts right to sell. I was talking to a guy the other day, he said, man, we just tested this lead and we didn't do any editing to it, and now outperformed our lead. So yeah, ours can do this. ChatGPT, probably not, unless you're a prompt engineer or know a lot about prompts. So you don't have to be a prompt engineer by trade, but you do need to know a lot about prompts. Can get you something that would serve as not only a first draft, but a really good, say, sales letter lead, or an entire VSL in our case, because we started with an entire VSL. So, but I still firmly believe that you have to have the skills of a copywriter, at least looking it over to make sure that all the elements are there for an idealized output. So, best case scenario with chat, you're looking at 60, 70%. With Benson, you get 90%, maybe 100%, depending on the niche that you're in. But you still need to use editing. You still need to know how to edit things. So it comes back down to knowledge, right? And not to go tangential on you or anything, but there's a term called agentic that is being tossed around a lot in the AI world, which is the biggest promise. Everything in the future we believe is going to be agentic. So my own software is coded in a way to make it agentic friendly. And that's essentially having an agent, which is an AI human. Think of an AI imitating a human. You would send a first draft. So you'd have an agent that would do the first draft. Then that agent would be checked by a proofing agent. And that agent's trained only on proofing. It doesn't do anything else but know how to proof things. Then it goes to an editor agent that does nothing but edit. So it knows all the editing techniques and everything. So we have an AI coming out this week called Improver that does the editing part of this. So, it's very nascent. This is a very early kind of thing in AI, but eventually it will go through a series of 5, 10, 15 agents and then output the final. And that will get you as close to human capabilities as possible. And then when you put the speed on top of it, it's just incomparable. I think you still need, and this is what I've said from day one, I've created tools I hope that will empower copywriters because as somebody said, a famous quote, someone pretty famous in the world, who shall go unnamed, said yesterday, AI will not replace humans, but humans that know AI will replace other humans. Absolutely true. So that is the way to look at it. Same thing with copywriters. If you know AI, you will completely obliterate your competition because you will have the best of both worlds. And marketers, that goes for marketers as well. So you do need to know this stuff.
If you're enjoying the show, just a quick reminder to press the like button, subscribe to this channel for more useful monetization tips, and turn on notifications so you don't miss all of the great tips coming up in future episodes. And thank you for sharing this episode with your friends and colleagues. I really, really appreciate it. I think people's kind of understanding of AI is really, ChatGPT and those types of tools, and therefore are completely unaware of the level of sophistication that guys like you have put into creating really high level tools. I've bought probably everything you've ever put out there and used it. I haven't used the latest version of your AI tool. My brother Jon, who hit me up, and he was like, "Holy moly!" Have you seen the prompts that Jon Benson is using? And I was like, no. And he sent me over examples of some of the prompts there. And the first thing that kind of came to mind as I was reading these prompts were only a very, very high level copywriter would create that kind of stuff. And I think that's kind of the difference between like a tool like yours. It's Benson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the tool is called Benson, and like ChatGPT. There's a lot of guys that go to ChatGPT and kind of put in some silly prompts and then just don't feel like AI works for them at all, not understanding that a tool that's designed by an elite level copywriter to produce elite level copy, there's a difference between night and day there. Yeah. And still at the same time, dude, you and I was blessed to work with you on, a couple of projects over the years. You wrote a webinar for us that, I just was like, God, this thing is it was like a psychological minefield of persuasion from like top to bottom. Like every single sentence had like multiple triggers in it. Myself and Sam Markowitz were working together at the time. We were like looking at your copy going, God, like this guy, crammed so much into each like sentence, so many sales triggers, so many tactics and strategies into a single sentence and a single paragraph. And as I think of that copy, which is, one of, countless pieces of brilliant copy that you've produced, it's kind of unrealistic to think that a tool could get to that level. Where do you see the future of this being? Like we are at Benson's level today. Where is Benson 3 years from now? Where is Benson 5 years from now? Like, where do you think this whole thing is going? Is it really the death of the copywriter, 5 years from now, or where do you think it's going to be?
Well, first of all, thank you. Second of all, right now, Benson is able to produce copy where basically every sentence, save a few, have the same kind of intense persuasion elements. But I want to come back to this because this is something I've never shied away from talking about. It's right now in the current landscape of AI, we're using multiple different LLMs, which is like, Anthropic, Grok, Gemini, OpenAI, to produce this copy. So it's not just one. But let's take OpenAI, ChatGPT. Let's just take that. In that world, if you're using that LLM, there are inherent drawbacks to every little aspect of a piece of copy. Like if you take a VSL, you could divide it into 10 sections: a lead, a story, a problem, a solution, offer, introduction, basic big chunks of copy, right? Every line of the copy ideally is going to move the reader forward, is going to move the reader to something that is either a pain point or a benefit, and preferably it's going to mix these up inside of this. So you're not going to have one long string of nothing but positivity. You're going to mix it up with, this not only helps you do this will help you avoid X, Y, Z, because you're talking to both sides of the brain in a sense. If you're going into cognition and understanding, essentially you've got two hemispheres and they process information a little bit differently. So you don't want to just speak to one. You don't want to speak to the visualization center all the time. You want to also speak to the amygdala, so to say. You want to get to the fear stuff in the brain. If you don't mix this up and have that happen, the persuasion is just not going to be as intense. So that's how we've trained Benson to understand. I'll take a sales letter lead. Let's just take a lead because they're the hardest things to write for sure. So if you have a lead that has all of those elements in it, and we're getting those elements from looking at the top 100 leads of all time currently and in the past, what made them great? How did they do that? And we're checking this on a line by line basis. The AI is our AI at least is getting that right about 90% of the time. So the other 10% of the time is going in to say, oh, maybe the AI went a little vague here. Like it might say, this is going to help you, X, Y, Z, and X, Y, Z is dimensionalized right on the money. And then says, oh, and you'll feel better too. And that's not dimensional enough maybe for you. So you can highlight that, at least in Benson, and say, make that more dimensional. And then say, and then you can forget about those nasty aches and pains when you wake up in the morning. So that's that. So what I just walked through is a real life example of what you would really, really do inside the application. But you see where that comes down to. That still comes down to the user being able to know it. So we had to develop a tool that would get you 90% there, that would get you conversions that are just almost as good as they could be if you had a professional copywriter going in through and editing it. But still, we think that the best version of this is to have, for now, is to have professional copywriters do this until the agentic world catches up to what we're doing and we're able to train agents that are as capable as human copywriters to go through and edit those lines. Like it will go through and look at those lines, and the entire job of it is to say, okay, what do I need to leave alone? What can I make more dimensional? What can I make more scary? What can I make more benefit rich? Whatever the case may be, right? And that's the future. That's where we're going. And it's not 5 years from now. It's 5 months from now. It's moving at the speed of light. It's super fast. And AI is crazy. And that's assuming that GPT-5, which is going to be I say GPT-5, it could be Elon's got his own AI coming out, XAI, and don't have any idea what that's going to do. Don't have any idea what that's going to be like. But that could come out, or the new release of Gemini could come out, or whatever, the newest AI could come out and go, wow, this is even better. And Benson would just tag into that. So we would just pull that into, but our copywriters are still looking at the background. So what your brother found, the cool thing is Benson's, the trademark is promptless AI. We were the first ones to actually have it trademarked. So it's like, because we're entirely promptless. The user doesn't have to know any of those complicated prompts. It's like, because that's the problem. You see, you either have to be a copywriter as prompts or a copywriter of copy. So I didn't want to just, take the user out of the frying pan and put them in the fire. Want to give them a tool that could do that. But ideally, if you're a copywriter or a marketer, and so we teach you copy concepts in our coaching calls, you can apply those concepts to say, oh, I want to make this a little bit more dynamic. Because I think the human element is still going to play a part in this until AI gets so sophisticated that it's going to find things that even the best human copywriter wouldn't do. At that point, it's going to be, who would you rather manage your copy? I think people will for years and years still have a warm, fuzzy feeling if a pro copywriter or a pro marketer, at the very minute least, is the guy or girl looking over everything to making sure that everything is okay. And also just human input, just being able to I don't think the goal is to replace that. The goal is to augment that. And if you augment it, which we've already done, but you're talking about how soon is it going to be? It's much sooner than you think. And that's true. Even if GPT-5 gets stalled, that's true because it's just the nature of the business. It just accelerates really fast.
The whole industry is just moving on at such an incredible speed.
Super fast, yeah.
You reminded me, I have a buddy in the airline industry, and he said, airplanes drive themselves. He said, the only reason a pilot is needed is because no one would get on the plane if there wasn't a pilot.
Exactly. It's pretty much the same thing.
To fly themselves, rather.
Right.
Yeah. There are business owners going to be listening to this whole episode here, and guys, if, as a business owner, I've got a copywriter, my copywriter is producing X amount of copy for me. Still haven't wrapped my head around kind of the idea of AI copywriting, what is kind of the big promise here, in terms of a business owner getting their in-house copywriter or in-house copywriting team heavily involved in AI. I mean, obviously, it's more than just, if you produce one offer a month, now you can produce, one plus several others there. I mean, can you take a minute to just maybe talk about what are the kind of the big benefits that every business owner should know about getting their team in AI copywriting?
Yeah, this one's probably the easiest one to answer, because let's just take all the, can it get you 95% of the way there? I mean, let's assume for the moment they only get you 80% of the way there. That, like Benson and other tools like it, chat's not going to get you 80% of the way there, because it's not, just so we're really clear, chat is an amazing tool. Claude is an amazing tool, but they're not trained as copywriters. The way that AIs are educated, they're trained on reading the internet. So if you read the internet, you're going to become a really crap copywriter. It's like, so you have to read really specific things to become a really great copywriter. And so that's where these apps like ours come in. So, but let's say that you have a copywriting app like Benson, or I don't think there's another one, but let's say there is. And what's the advantage? Well, the biggest advantage, other than speed, because to getting things out fast, is sheer volume. Because as you know, let's just look at two things: ads and emails. How many ad variants would you test for a new campaign?
A lot, hundreds.
Right? So
in my case,
yeah, and a lot, right? So is the correct answer 3? So, but if you are a human to come up with 3 angles, a copywriter says, "Hey, I've come up with 3 total hooks. We should test that." And let's say one of them works. That's great. That's wonderful. AI could come up with 300.
Yeah.
It's how, and come up with hooks that you would never think about, and do it before you can't even get to the other room and come up with pour a cup of coffee. So now that's if the AI is trained on copy. So we're just assuming that's the case. Then how would you translate that into, okay, now I need to create a welcome sequence, based around this, or a landing page, or a sales letter lead based around this. That's the big promise here, is because it could come up with 5 ideas that you could go, wow, that's great. And maybe you expand on the idea. Maybe you go, I never would have thought of it. I can't tell you how many times we've done this. We were, I don't know if you know the guys at Performance Golf or not, but Donnie French, great copywriter. They've got a massive golf agency, and the best, the number one in the world. And they were over here at the house, and we were with Ben, another copywriter on their team, and he wanted us to do a music offer, right? And so I showed him the way that Benson thinks through creating an idea, creating what we call a big idea. It's different than a hook, a unique mechanism. A positive hook is what we call it. So I was showing you, here's a positive hook, here's a big idea, here's the differences. One's thematic, one is the aha moment that someone goes through, the unique thing that makes something work. So they know all this stuff, right? But I was showing them how Benson creates that, because it's very hard. This is the hardest thing for AI to understand, these meta concepts, these things that are underneath the surface, right? They're not so obvious. Like the end of America, a great big idea, right? For, ended up being worth probably $100 million offer.
Yeah, so, it was one of the most successful offers ever.
Yeah. And so, but the idea behind it, so now just picture yourself and this is what we were doing. So picture yourself going back, to another, and forgive me, but I know the copywriter personally. I just totally, Mike Palmer. Mike goes back. Mike has an idea for something, and it's not end of America. It's something else. It's like the collapse of the stock market. Maybe that's his idea. Okay. Well, I don't think the letter would have done $100 million if it was the collapse of the stock market. The idea needed to literally be bigger than that. Like, what does the collapse of the stock market or the collapse of the dollar mean? What is the extrapolation of that? Keep extrapolating until you come up with something, and then it has to be pithy enough for people to remember. So that's just one example, like how AI would have to think through that, as a human would have to think through that. So we were doing the same thing for his music offer. But then I said, I throw a curveball in here, which I can't tell anybody what it is because it is definitely the trademark secret sauce of what we do as far as coming up with hooks and big ideas. But it's essentially exactly the opposite of what you would think. Just picture like it is almost diametrically, almost assuredly the opposite of what you would think about doing. And this is how we spoke to the AI to get it to do this. And the very first thing it came out with was something completely unrelated to music. And I know as I was a professional musician for 10 years. Can't see the guitars behind me, but was a professional musician as well. And we looked at each other and went, that's a massive idea. Never would have thought of it in a million years because it didn't use what we would use, you and I and he, to think of things. Like we would think of big ideas and like I was just talking about, what does the stock market mean? What does the financial world mean? We trained Benson to go out and think of it outside of itself. So it has to get outside to come up with ideas that you wouldn't normally think of. And just the idea of it, forget what it wrote, forget any of that stuff, was like, that's the idea. I can take that and create a whole ad campaign around it. So the question I'm asking you is, if AI gave you an idea that you went, holy crap, man, I never would have thought of it because it's outside of we all think in somewhat of a linear fashion, even the most creative thinkers in the world, right? We can't get outside of ourselves. And this comes at the other side of things. And you go, I never would have thought of it that way. But that opens up in your mind, wow, this idea, then this idea, then this idea. Then it wasn't AI writing it all, and it wasn't you writing it all, but you wouldn't have got the impetus without the AI. Yeah. And we did the same thing with performance golf. We were coming up with, it was coming up with new, unique mechanisms and big ideas that you're just like, I never would have worded it this way because that's not the way we think of it, right? Yeah. And so that I think is the real power of what a really well-educated AI can do in copy, is come up with things outside of your normal way of thinking things.
Yeah, you remind me of a couple of experiences that I had. I was in Baltimore with Agora Financial one time, and the head guy at Agora Financial was Joe Schrieffer. I know you know Joe, and I was invited in on a meeting with their top traffic guy. And I was blown away by, this guy. He was awesome. And, he was their number one traffic partner, which Agora is, as you know, an enormous company. So I wanted to know, like, who this guy was, what was his secret. And afterwards, I got to chatting to him. And I asked him, I said, hey, what makes you the number one traffic partner for Agora? What makes you that guy? What makes you like the king of the jungle there? He's like, dude, honestly, he's like, we test 800 new ads a day.
Right.
I was like, really? He was like, yeah, every day we've got 800 new ads a day going out the door. I was like, 800. He was like, yeah, 800. I was like, wow. He's like, you put 800 ads out the door. He's like, you're going to find winners. You're going to find things.
Find winners. Yep.
And I recently met and did a deal with a very high level affiliate who was doing a lot of money, a lot of volume a day promoting affiliate offers. And I asked him the same thing. And he gave me exactly the same answer. I was like, dude, what makes you like, because this guy is the number one affiliate for the number one offers in the number, in the most like largest, most lucrative niches. And I said, what makes you that guy? What is it that you're doing? He's like, dude, at my level, he's like, it's just about like testing. He's like hundreds of ads every single week. He's like, it really is that simple. And, a single brain is incapable. You'll run aground real fast, relying on your own creativity to crank out that many ideas. And that's what is needed to operate at the highest levels of, media buying and generating traffic. So I think that is, if that's not the only reason why you should use tools like these, like Benson, it's definitely one of the big reasons why, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that somebody might be hearing this right now and be thinking like, well, thank goodness I, don't run traffic, or that I only have, I only have the need for 5 creatives. It's not that you need to run. We don't run 800 creatives for Benson, for example, but the one thing that we've run into our own, the cobbler's sons have no shoes is a very it's a statement that definitely can apply to me sometimes. At least I don't know about you, Caleb, but sometimes I'm so busy creating the actual thing, I'm forgetting to do the thing I'm talking about creating. So we just rectified this problem with we don't have enough ad creative because we couldn't beat the number one ad that we have that I just rattled off on a webinar. In fact, they literally took it from a webinar, so it wasn't even planned. Now the webinar was written in part by Benson, so so again, this is like this. It becomes your writing partner. It becomes like, okay, he came up with this, and then I came up with this, and so it kind of gets this hodgepodge together. But to beat that ad, I might not need 800, but I could certainly use 8. I could certainly use 8. Every single person listening to this, if you have an offer, if you don't have 8 variations of your ads, I'm just pulling out 8 as an arbitrary number, then yeah, you're doing something really, really that's hurting your business. It's not, but the thing is, it's difficult to do that. It's difficult to do that without having an AI on your side that can help you come up with different angles, ideas, perspectives. And, that's something that in all candor, Benson is just going to get better at, because we're rolling out the pro version of Benson in a couple of weeks here. And the only people who have the original get into the pro initially, but that's going to have what we call the big idea generator. So you can take big ideas and let Benson create the big ideas based on these really abstract things that we're talking about, things that you just would never have thought of. Okay, it's not if you get chat to write big ideas for you, it first of all, it has to understand it, which is very difficult. And then it has to understand, how do you get meta? How do you get underneath something, as I say, where you're coming at it from this side? And, you can always tell a great big idea when you can see through it. Like, you hear the idea and you see the other side of it. Like, you see back to Mike's idea of the end of America. The moment you hear that, you see there's something on the other side of it, and it's not good. This is a very not good thing for people that are doing it. But people who are in the investing world, if it's framed the way it did, it's like there's this huge opportunity, because everything that we know about the American dream is changing. It's completely changing. This is the end of the American dream, but it's the beginning of something new. Well, so you're automatically in this position of wanting to know there's something on the other side of that. There has to be, right? So where you come up with these really goofy big ideas, like, oh, this is the, some hooky name, right? Don't get me wrong. Hooky names are great. They get you in the door. But if you don't have any meat behind the bone, it's not going to stick. And so let's say that you have something creating these things for you, and then say, now build me an ad around that. Now build me an ad around that. So this speeds up the process infinitely fast. So there's no way a human copywriter can do that. A human copywriter can still overlook it and then look like a rock star because they come up with these 20 ideas. Here's 20 new ideas. Let's test them.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to do it on ads, you should at least do it on emails or subject lines, things that you can easily test without costing you a penny. You can test email subject lines without costing you a penny, right? But how many people split test email subject lines? Yet one could outpull the other one by 200%.
Yeah.
So these are the little things that turn marketers from average marketers into great marketers. And almost always it's the Babe Ruth syndrome. It's go back to Babe Ruth. He struck out more times than he hit home runs, but he hit the most amount of home runs. It's just volume. That's what it is. So AI kills humans when it comes to volume.
Yeah. I want to come back to something you just said there a minute ago. But firstly, what kind of copy is Benson designed to create? Like, give me the scope of work that it covers.
Just about anything, long form, short form VSLs. So we started with, we were the first AI to be able to do a 6,000 word VSL, the kind that, I got famous for. And yes, I did create VSLs. So the first VSL was shorter than that, but they quickly evolved into being 45 to 60 minutes long. So there was no AI that could do that, because there's just simply especially at this time, there was a token limit on it. You just couldn't get that many words back. So we figured out how to do that. And now you can create entire VSLs in a matter of minutes, which is ridiculous. Webinars, sales letters, of course, email campaigns, ads, advertorials, opt-in pages, website copy, everything. You can clone things. In other words, you can take your competitors. We prefer to people that take top offers from other industries. Like if let's say I'm in the weight loss space, right? And I see there's this offer that's crushing it in the, you know, the dog space. You know, this doggy offer is just killing it over here. Well, it may be something related specifically to the offer, but it also may be something what we call the persuasion matrix, or something in this matrix of this offer that whoever wrote it has kind of figured out. It's kind of figured out, like, if I talk like this, then transition to like this and transition to like this. Maybe they just guessed. Maybe they've strategically thought it out that this is just crushing it right now. So we'll take ads that are crushing it, and then we'll clone the ad with Cloner inside Benson, and then it turns that ad into our copy and makes it unique to us. So in other words, I could take anything in the world. I could take it. It doesn't matter what it is. You can clone anything. So there's not a limit on what it can do as far as the type of copy. The style of copy tends to be more direct response. That's what we know better than anyone else, at least in the space. And so that's what we've tried to perfect. It's not going to do things like, it can write an article, but it's not an article writer. That's not. There are other AIs that do that, and that's article writing and things of that nature. It's not copy, so I'm not as interested in that. But I'm interested in the things that get you clicks and sales.
So text sales letters, video sales letters, webinars, emails, email campaigns, deadline campaigns, upsells, downsells, that kind of. Wow.
Yep.
I think I already, John has it. I'm thinking to myself, I need to go buy it again. But talk me through like so, you're a business owner, you are, you sign up for Benson, you need to create some kind of an offer on the back end or an offer on the front end. Not really talented at creating offers, but you understand the power of a killer offer. Without giving away, obviously, the secret sauce, can Benson, with what it is that you guys do, really manufacture like a killer offer for, what it is that you're trying to sell?
Well, so Benson works off of what we call frameworks, and a framework is a persuasion matrix for a specific item. So an offer is, an offer could have a whole funnel, obviously surrounded by an offer, and that's fine. But let's take how effective would a VSL be, or a sales letter be, something that we know very well at conveying an offer. So when you've modeled dozens and dozens and dozens of the top offers in the world, top sales letters in the world, and you've trained it specifically on how those letters are written, like every little section of the letter, right? And then when Benson takes a stab at recreating that, then right off the bat, you're 90% there, because you're taking something that we already know works. We already know these offers work. So how an offer is structured into the reader's mind has already been thought through. The AI has already understood, like, okay, well, this is what it's doing here versus here versus here versus here. So a lot of it then just comes down to coming in and creating what we call the positive and negative hooks. So what's the negative hook? Is the cause of the problem. It's the phrase that you give, the terminology that you give to the number one cause of the problem. And so if you can narrow it down to one thing, and this is again just copywriting basics, but a lot of people don't teach it. There needs to be one thing that your client, that your prospect can grasp onto as, my entire problem is caused by something called X. And if I fix X, then Y is the result. So it's pretty simple, right? So we don't say there are 9 reasons why you can't lose weight. And we say there's only one reason you can't lose weight. And even if there's 9 factors involved in it, we'll take those 9 factors and condense them into one. We'll find the commonality of them. Then we'll maybe extrapolate it when we get into the product itself. Say, okay, there are 9 key components to this one thing, but we've got the one thing branded, right? So one of the key elements of creating a killer offer is exactly that. It's what's the hook? What's the idea that gets someone in the door? So Benson does extremely well with what's called lead hooks, positive hooks, negative hooks. Positive hook is a unique mechanism, like what makes the offer work, what makes this thing different than everything else. A lead hook is something that you could, the very first line of a sales letter or an ad you might see something like, here's my 5-second morning ritual to lose fat, for example. Well, the 5-second morning ritual is the lead hook. It's not the hook of the product. It's not big enough to be the hook of the product, but it's big enough to get somebody in from a click. So Benson thinks through those entire positive, negative lead hooks right out of the box. So our users, they just literally type. If they want to type, they can just type. They can copy and paste. They can copy and paste from a competitor. They can just do that to create the first thing that you create inside Benson, which is a blueprint. So we have to figure out, well, who are you selling to, and why are they interested in buying it? So that's what Benson's been trained on with thousands and thousands of examples. Like, how do we get you this blueprint? So in other words, it's just the chunks of copy we're going to use. For example, if I said to you, Caleb, is this great copy? Lose weight.
Yeah, not so much.
Not so much, right? But if you have a weight loss sales page, the odds of you not seeing the phrase lose weight in that sales page are almost zero. Okay, right? So it's not great copy, but it's the foundational blocks of great copy. Yeah. That's a blueprint. But here's what's interesting. You have hundreds and hundreds of these blocks. And what we've done, as you know, for the last almost 12 years now, since Accelerator came out in 2010, so 14 years now, is we figured out how to break these into blocks, how to break these blocks out into chunks of text. And Benson scans all the copy that you copy and paste in there, figures out what all those blocks are, and says, okay, let's start from here. Let's get these blocks right. So you can go in there, and if you want to, you can click a button and magically rewrite each one of those blocks until they're just what you like. Then we pull it into the framework. And so now the framework's got all the persuasion stuff around it. It's like, like I say, like here's a simple 3-second morning ritual to help you lose weight. Well, now we're talking about solid copy, right? But you didn't have to come up with 3-second morning ritual, even lose weight. Or here's it's like all this is pieced together. Think of it like Siri on the iPhone, okay? A Siri or any sort of thing that's giving you directions. It's like, go past the next light. And then at the next light, take a right on Hastings Avenue. Well, how is it figuring out, how does it know to say Hastings Avenue? This was fascinating to me years ago. So this is how I started. Well, obviously it's like you can say, well, the lady who recorded that recorded every street name in the world. Okay. Or she recorded just, hey, and then she recorded Stings. And they recorded Avenue, right? Together. So, and then the AI puts it together, right? So that's closer to what really happened. So the same thing goes here. So we have the blocks over here, then we have the frameworks over here, and then your input goes over here, and then you put it all together, and it comes out with something that is a pattern of something we already know works. So you're already halfway there. Now, I could manually recreate a Gary Halbert sales letter and change just a few of the words. And that's not what this is. This is not plagiarism. But let's say I was a plagiarist and I decided to do that. And the offer still may bomb. But so it doesn't mean that it's definitely going to be a hit. But the odds of starting with Gary Halbert's sales letter, one of the greatest copywriters who ever lived, and modeling it goes infinitely higher than if you start on your own. Yeah. Because he's already figured out like a lot of the things that you will never figure out about, okay, I say this next, then I need to make sure I say this. And the AI is modeling that to say, okay, how do I do that for this person? And that's essentially how, not with Gary Halbert, but it's essentially how Benson is thinking through things.
Yeah, undoubtedly. If you're using very well proven formulas for, creating winning copy, you're going to have a much higher likelihood of succeeding than if you were to attempt to kind of create your own formula that's never seen the light of day beforehand.
Right.
From listening to you, man, it really sounds like, there's a kind of a shift in the world of copywriting. It almost sounds like it is far better for you to become a copywriting, prompt creator as opposed to a traditional kind of copywriter. It seems like that is a far more productive path.
I think that learning how to write copy from the get-go is something I'm still passionate about, because I always will be, just because it's like, it's like, okay, let's take an analogy for that. EDM, electronic dance music, right? Not exactly my kind of music, but let's face it, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, right?
Or
a lot of rap music, for example. Rap is even a better example. Sampled music of any kind. So they sample a lick from a Queen song that Queen wrote in 1976, right? And that
What is it?
becomes this big rap hit in the 80s by, remember Vanilla Ice, that guy? So he samples like, one of the Queen's songs and it becomes a big hit, right? So the hook, if you will, was already written. The hook was written by somebody, and some might argue, including myself, that all the talent was already taken up in 1976 with Queen. But nonetheless, he was able to do this and
Yeah.
parlay that into a multi-million-dollar career success because he put his own stuff on top of it, right? He put his own interpretation on top of it, put his own garbage on top of it, but nonetheless, it doesn't matter. It still works, right? Whatever is working is working. Well, EDM is kind of like a much more sophisticated version of that, where you can take samples of drum beats, samples of this, samples of that, and you compile it into other things. The one of the reasons why it works is because they already know a certain groove has a certain effect, or a certain rhythm has a certain effect.
What is
So
it?
it's the same thing here. If you're a copywriter, do you really need to write entire songs the way Queen did in 1976? Well, it'd be great to do that because the skill of that, I mean, as a musician, I would say by all means, please try to do that because the world needs more art. The world needs more of that. Do you have to do it today to be a multimillionaire musician? No, you do not. You just know, you need to know what to listen for. So this is where it gets really interesting. Copywriters know what to listen for. Now, you think that it's more of a visual thing. We're hearing words.
Yeah.
Most of us that write really good copy, we're hearing the rhythm. We're seeing the rhythm of the words. We're seeing a pace. We might not know we're doing that, but we are. And then a lot of times people will say, I read the copy aloud. I do too. We need to hear it. We need to know. So we're listening for things, right? That skill is quite a ways from being replaced. But why on earth, if you've already got that skill as a manual copywriter or a marketer who knows how to write copy, why wouldn't you accelerate that 100-fold speed-wise to give you the ideas, to give you the structure, the general structure, where all you're doing now is editing for that flow. You've got the ideas and you're going, oh, this is good. I wouldn't have thought of that. Or this is perfect. I can just keep it the way it is. Or I'm going to change this part to add this. Well, now you're writing together with the machine, so to say. And it's just become a copywriting partner, but it's also the guy or the girl or the whatever you want to call the AI. I call Benson is a him. So he is your copywriter, your first draft guy. But the first drafter often can go untouched or barely touched, and then you add your touches to it. But man, when you feed it better data, when you feed Benson like, oh, I came up with an idea for something, this hook or this big idea. Well, obviously, it's just going to get better and better. Now you feed the AI and say, hey, write what it means when I say this hook name, and it will come out and figure out what you're trying to say, and maybe it will figure out in ways that you wouldn't have thought of. So yeah, that's how I'm seeing it. I'm seeing copywriters, especially now, you have a tool that can give you the ability to say, okay, here's 3 leads for your sales letter, and it costs you exactly a minute of time extra versus hours of time extra. And you can say, I'll give you 3 leads for double the price. So you can test 3 different approaches to this. The customer is not going to care. With your eye looking over it as a marketer or a copywriter, it's even better. If you're not a copywriter, not a marketer, then by all means, spend more if I were you, I would spend time learning some of the basics of copywriting, but spend most of the time growing your business, doing the things that that only you can do in your business, and outsource this to either hiring one person to take control of the AI, or do it yourself. We have a lot of entrepreneurs doing this themselves because they want their message. They have a passion of getting their own voice inside the AI. So yeah, it's a whole new world, man. It really is. And like I said, the
It
people that know
is.
it will win.
Yeah, and I was on a podcast myself where I was asked, if I feel in any way threatened by AI.
Just
I have written some very effective copy, but I kind of consider myself more of a business owner, copywriter than a career copywriter. I guess I was being asked that question like as if I was a career copywriter, and I answered it the same way regardless, and that is, I don't feel threatened by it at all. I feel, relieved that there's this thing out there that can assist me greatly in coming up
right.
with new ideas. If you like, the way that I look at it is, you will never have 100% success rate with copy, because that's just not how the industry works. You'll never have 100% success rate with AI copy. I
No,
can't imagine that, we would ever get to a stage like that. I think it would be
never,
insane if
never.
it did. But
No.
what there is there's ideas. And you kind of get to a certain
Yeah.
stage, I think, in advertising and in business, if you're in this business, where ideas are kind of everything.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I wanted to come back to was this idea of split testing subject lines.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned from Perry Belcher years ago. What he used to do is he would say, take 20% of your list, split it in half, and then email one subject line versus
Mm-hmm.
the other subject line, I think
Mm-hmm.
from like 6 a.m. until 8 a.m. And
Mm-hmm.
whichever one wins by 8 a.m., mail the rest of the 80% of your list to the winning subject line.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in that way, you make a lot more money by
Mm.
doing that
You make a lot
every
more
time
money.
you mail.
Yeah.
And if you were to look at AI in terms of creating like email subject line tests for you, it'll only be a
Mm-hmm.
matter of time before you start to realize how much money AI can be making for you. You also mentioned I think you said
Yeah.
8 different leads for a VSL. So many people don't test 8 different leads. So many people don't test a second lead.
Oh,
They'll
true.
write a
Yeah.
VSL, go out the door. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, then the whole campaign is over and they just move on.
Mm-hmm.
The professionals will sit down, they'll come up with 8 different leads,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got a 8 times more likelihood of succeeding if you're testing 8 different leads. So my
Yeah.
point, I guess, in all of this is that there's AI is going to make you money if you're playing the game properly. And I do think myself, when I first heard of it, I didn't really see the value in it, and now I
Mm-hmm.
kind of view it as, if you're not involved in it, you're probably just you're going to get weeded out of the game. There's
Definitely.
guys that will be cranking out more offers than you, more hooks than you, more ads than you, um, and you'll just get eaten alive if you're not doing it.
Without a doubt. It's just, it's like, to me, it's no different than, back in the 90s. I remember there was a time when no one I knew was on the internet. And around 97, we started getting like, do you think that maybe we should look into this thing called the World Wide Web? And I got on around that time, 98, maybe around that time. And I remember distinctly around the 2000 mark, right? When the whole world was supposed to end, nothing
Yeah.
happened. That
Yeah.
there were so many people in my office. I was a young graphic designer that was saying things like, yeah, it's really cool. I mean, I sent an email to somebody the other night that was kind of cool, but it'll never replace a mail, I mean, ever. And then
Yeah.
some of the funniest things I remember hearing was like, no one will ever buy anything from the internet. No one will ever put their credit card into internet. You'll never be able to. I was saying, like, look, one of these days you'll be able to buy groceries from the internet, because that's impossible. So
Yeah.
no, none of that was impossible. And I didn't have to be Elon Musk level visionary to see this. It was like, it was just so obvious. Well,
Yeah.
it's infinitely more obvious to me now that yeah, AI, it makes the invention of the internet look small. It's going to
Yeah.
change everything, and people do not realize how big, how fast, and how massive that change is going to be. It is. We're not even getting into the Terminator scenario, right? What's your doom
Yeah.
number and all that stuff. I'm
Yeah.
not talking about that. I'm talking about just the tools like what we have called narrow intelligent tools, like what we have, right? It's going
Yeah.
to change everything. You're going to massively reduce staff with AI, or you'll just get killed by people who aren't.
Yeah, even myself, it's hard to wrap my mind around it. I was listening to a presentation there recently where they were saying that like almost every industry that is a service-based industry is going to get hit massively. Like, take the medical industry as an example. This idea
Yeah.
that you go to a doctor, you have a headache.
Mm.
You'd be shocked to know that like how many medical decisions are based on assumption, not actual fact and reality.
Right.
That sometime in the near future, you're just going to have this little home kit, and you're just going to put your finger on this thing. It's going to scan the sweat on your. Don't tell me you've already you made it, did you?
No, I didn't make this,
Just built
but
it last week.
yeah, to give you an idea, so this is a home-based EKG monitor. So this,
Wow.
I can put my fingers on this for 30 seconds, and I can take an EKG. I'm using it for athletic purposes, looking at what heart rate does after, because I'm training for contests. But and also I have a genetic heart condition from when I was a kid. But so I can look at this and see, is my sinus rhythm normal? Is it detecting any abnormalities? It's got a big caveat in there saying, look, this does not detect heart disease or heart attacks, of course.
Yeah.
But that's the first step to doing exactly that. You can eventually have something that will just read not only just your EKG, but what's the status of your entire health. Look, I found an abnormality in your right upper earlobe. You should go have this checked out immediately, and eventually get to the point where your phone could scan it and go, okay, you're cool. Just need to remove it. So that's going there faster than people realize. I'll tell you one more thing, Caleb, if I can. You know what's super fast, and people have no idea. I mean, I talked to the Family Guy joke is, we call you guys normies. We call the normies are people outside the AI world. And I'm like going, I'm talking about robots, and they're like looking at me like I'm from another planet. Like I go, no, like robots are completely a thing. I mean, they're like, yeah, I mean, like on Star Trek. No, you don't understand. I mean, you don't understand. Tesla is going to make more robots in a year than they will cars, or 2 years. You will have a robot as sure as I'm alive. You will. Anyone that's over a certain income will have a robot. They will probably have more than one, but people are like looking at you like you're completely insane. But when you see what's really happening, and you see this is already happening, it's right underneath your nose.
Oh, it's happening.
Just remember, man. I mean, and I'm pretty techie. I remember seeing the first self-driving car and not believing it. Going, how did I miss this? How did I miss self-driving cars? Now they're all over the place. It's the same way with robots, same way with AI. It's just the way the world is, and you can bitch about it. You can say, oh, it's not fair. It's this, that, or the other. Well, the Industrial Revolution wasn't fair to a lot of people, and it changed the world.
I was in Dubai, and I got a fever, and I went to a hospital, and I walked in the door, and a robot came up to me with a computer, and I had to enter my details into a robot in a hospital in Dubai.
Right.
It's already here. It's just that it hasn't spread across the planet like it's not, but it's already here, and it's crazy. It's crazy. Even in some airports, there's like little kind of waiter robots going around, and you put the trays in there. I mean, in the next few years, they're going to be everywhere. It's a crazy world for sure.
Well, Dubai is like, it's always been. My wife just left for a trip to Bali. Lucky girl. I couldn't go, but I said, hey, look, don't let me stop you. Your best friend lives there, so. And she had a layover in Dubai. And I'm like, Dubai is like one of the most progressive, amazing technological cities in the world, if not the most. And so if you get a chance, look around, because they got so many cool things there, man.
Oh, it's
those
awesome.
people, they know how to do it right, man. The Arab Emirates airline is just freaking amazing, just to begin with. But
it's just next level there.
Next level stuff.
There's a museum of the future there, and that's kind of shocking. What's coming, what they're doing, like what they're doing in space, how they're making food, it's crazy. Yeah. Jon, thank you so much for being here, man.
You're welcome.
First of all, if anybody wanted to, learn more about you, where would they go? And secondly, where would they go to learn more about Benson?
Me, it's pretty simple. JonBenson.com. I don't spell it with an H. I'm a copywriter, not a speller. So JON. And Benson is spelled BNSN, is my last name without the vowels, because it looked cool. So Benson.ai for the AI.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to be here, Jon. Thanks so much for enlightening us on all things AI and Benson related. I really appreciate it.
No problem, man. My pleasure always, Caleb.
I'd love to know, based on what Jon and I were talking about here today, what's been your experience using AI to create advertising and sales copy? Please go ahead, share your thoughts below. I look forward to hearing from you. And as always, if you have a question about marketing or advertising or monetization and you would like my help with it, then all you got to do is send me an email to caleb@monetizationresearch.com, and I will do my very best to include my response in an upcoming episode. In the next episode, my guest will be my good buddy, Robbie Blanchard, one of the leading webinar marketers in the world and creator of a tool that I absolutely love called Spy Hero, an amazing tool for spying on the ads of other marketers and other business owners. I personally am addicted to this tool. I love it. And as always, the best way to stay in the loop with all things monetization related is to join my free newsletter, Monetization Daily. You can go ahead and get it at monetizationresearch.com. We will send you our favorite news, tips, tactics, strategies, and discoveries about how to monetize your business, which is ultimately all about increasing your profit. Again, head on over to monetizationresearch.com right now.